Good morning. Will the Committee on Planning, Infrastructure, and Transportation please come to order? I would like to welcome Committee Member Tupola, who is here with us in the Council chamber, and also Committee Chair Cordero, who is participating remotely by video conference, as well as Committee Member Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam and Committee Chair Cordero, in accordance with Section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, please identify each person who is with you at your location.
There's no one with me.
Hi, Vice Chair Okimoto. There's no one with me.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Members Dos Santos Tam and Cordero. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways, remotely and in person in the Council chamber. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when the agenda item is taken up. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 1-13 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each person may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. All persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference or phone will be called upon first. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. For those who are joining us by telephone only, I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. I will then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to offer testimony. Please utilize the raise hand feature in Zoom to be called on. Some friendly reminders and tips: video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're also watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you're called to testify. When the timer on screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. Once all the remote testifiers have testified, I will proceed to in-person testimony in the Council chamber. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by a roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and if there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. For those council members participating from outside the council chamber, in accordance with HRS Section 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audio-visual contact with you and cannot reconvene until we reestablish contact. Therefore, please announce beforehand if you will be voluntarily signing out of the meeting. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones. So members, we are now moving to agenda item number 1, Resolution 25-10. This resolution confirms the nomination of Dominic H.K. Millis to serve as the Director of Design and Construction of the City and County of Honolulu. And with us this morning, we'd like to welcome Director-Designate Haku Millis. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Committee Vice Chair Okimoto. Good morning, Council members. I'm Haku Millis, Director-Designate for the Department of Design and Construction. I just want to say how much I appreciated the opportunity and discussion at the last hearing, and how much I would appreciate your consideration and confirmation in this position. As I mentioned before, I really enjoyed my time as not only as Deputy Director, but as Director for the Department of Design and Construction, and would love to continue on. So thank you.
Thank you, Director-Designate Haku Millis. Members, do we have any questions? Yes, Committee Chair, Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. Hi, thank you, Vice Chair Okimoto. Hi, Director-Designate Millis. Thank you very much for the robust discussion that you had last meeting and sharing more than just about your process for the last few years, but as well as what we can look towards in the future. In light of that, do you have anything more that you would like to add or share with the committee?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I don't have anything additional. I feel like I talked so much, talked your guys' ears off last time. But, you know, our discussion can always continue. There's always open communication opportunities. For some of you who I hadn't sent in the past, I sent the PIO information for DDC. So let me know if you didn't get that information for Cindy Cromwell. That's just another opportunity for us to continue discussion and open up the lines of communication between DDC and Council. Thank you.
Mahalo, mahalo, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Committee Chair Cordero. Is Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Thank you, Chair. This is the same question that I posed to E&V yesterday. And it's not really a question, but more of an observation and desire. As you know, Council often adds projects in that are priorities for us and for our districts. You know, I want to make sure that in the next 4 years, some of these projects are able to move forward. I note that in the past few years, and frankly, this goes before the Blangiardi administration, it's been a pattern where very few of the Council ads ever come to fruition. And so year after year, Council members end up putting it into the budget to the exclusion of other projects. And then they never get constructed. And so I appreciate you coming out to, for example, Henry Street the other day. And I hope that future projects that we put into the budget will get fair consideration in DDC's planning as well as the other departments.
Thank you, Council Member. Very much appreciate your involvement and guidance on that. As we kind of discussed, we do appreciate when Council can make sure that we're covering everything that is needed in the community. We had a drainage analysis plan for an area, and Councilmember Dos Santos Tam indicated there's an issue just outside of where we were going to include in our study. And so by him notifying us, we're able to include it. And so those kinds of communication and back and forth is what not only helps us do our jobs, but better serve the community. In regards to the Council ads moving forward, we're happy to work with Council and with administration on how we can make these work, specifically with the client departments in meeting their needs and their budget moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. I have just a quick question, if that's okay. And I want to thank you for coming and meeting with us in person, as well as taking the questions in the full Council and addressing the questions that we had. Something that I've asked in our one-on-one meetings, but also maybe in public in the past. I know that you're in a situation with your department because you're often waiting for projects to get to your department so that it can start. And I think on our end, we get, I wouldn't say frustrated, but we're confused sometimes or wondering what's happening with the projects. And so I'm wondering if you could share with us maybe what we could do on our end. I know that communication has been talked about today, and I understand, again, in your end, you're waiting to get to the process where you can take the project and go. So for us as Council members, what can we do to help? I'm not sure if it's expedite or clarify or get things going instead of us waiting and wondering what's happening, and we're thinking it's in your hands, and we don't realize that we should be following up with another part of the administration's cabinet.
Sure, thank you for the question. We are always happy to hear from Council if there is something that is believed to be hung up somewhere. We never want things to be sitting, and definitely not sitting within DDC when the ball is in our court. If it is coordination that is required with other agencies or other departments, we're happy to sit down in a meeting with you, or if you want us to, reach out and provide an update, we can. It's difficult for us if the ball is in another agency's court. We try to avoid speaking for them and their situation and circumstances. But sometimes it is lying with us and we're just not aware. It's not an excuse. Every agency, every department is very busy. And so you're focused on things and getting things done, and maybe something slips through the crack. And so we appreciate if council can point that out to us, so we can make sure it's not just sitting somewhere in a pile. Thanks.
Thank you. And I appreciate you sharing, where you take responsibility and where it can be improved upon. And I think one of the questions I've asked in the past is where sometimes it feels like there's different departments and there's either overlapping or gaps that need to be filled. What can be done to address that?
So there are opportunities that are being explored in the administration to better identify roles and responsibilities. And so some of those things have happened with DLM and housing, for example. We're working through, as we kind of had talked about last time, an MOU between DDC and DFM, so that it's clear cut of who has responsibility in what. One of the concerns that we have talked about is a bit of an overlap between DLM and land division within DDC. And so we provide a support for land acquisition to the city that's different from Department of Land Management. And so, it really comes down to what avenue we're going to go through for acquisition. And those things, it's clear cut in once we make a decision on the direction that we're going to go. But I think getting there sometimes needs to be worked out and coordinated and does take time. And so, the better that we are able to communicate with DLM, we can improve that. I feel like I have a good relationship with Kat. And so, we'll continue with that. Thanks.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing the improvements or changes to address it. Members, Councilmember Tupola.
Yeah, I'll make it fast. Thank you for your questions. Aloha, Designate Director. We're grateful to have you here. Thankful for, your ongoing communication with us. However frustrating it is, I just have to, kind of iterate that I really wish that at least one of our council ads could be maybe prioritized. There's some of us that have been in for 4, going on 5 years, where we haven't seen any council ad prioritized. And I'll make some comments about the other departments when they come up. But I think maybe even if we could just choose one that maybe we're all on the same page with, that we could push forward. We don't have to do all of the ones we put in. It would just be nice, I think, if we knew that this particular one is a priority of the administration, of yourself and us, and that way we can keep the community informed instead of keeping them hanging on for years, hoping that something's going to happen.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And we'll continue to work with the administration and with the client agencies through council, however we can support, all of these projects moving forward.
Sounds good. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Tupola. Members, any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. We will now proceed with in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members, we are now in discussion. Seeing no further discussion, the chair then recommends that Resolution 25-10 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Congratulations, Director Milas. Moving on to agenda item number 2, Resolution 25-20. This resolution confirms the nomination of J. Roger Morton to serve as the Director of Transportation Services of the City and County of Honolulu. And with us today, we have Director Designate Mr. Roger Morton. Thank you for being with us, Director.
Councilmember Cordero online, Vice Chair Okimoto, members of the committee. My name is Roger Morton, and I'm the Director Designate for the Department of Transportation Services. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for allowing me to make my case for confirmation. It's a great honor of my life to have been in charge of the Department of Transportation Services, and hopefully I look forward to more years where we can get things done. We have, looking forward, we have many opportunities, and we also have a lot of challenges going forward into the next 4 years. And I relish the opportunities, and I will stand to look for remedies for all the challenges that inevitably will be there. Someone said once that all politics are local, and really there's nothing more local, in my view, than a stop sign on a street or a complaint about speeding in your neighborhood. And as you know, we see those every day. And I enjoy the going out to meet the public. I did one yesterday, in fact, and I learn a lot when I go out and meet people face to face at the grassroots. I've made it an attempt to try to improve our communication with the council. We try to listen very carefully to what the districts want, and my staff tries to integrate those, if not in the current budget, then in future budgets as we go forward. Again, it's been my honor to serve for the last 4 years, and I look forward to the next 4, and I'm happy to answer any questions that any member has.
Thank you, Director-Designate Martin. Members, do we have any questions? I see Committee Chair Cordero and Councilmember DePolo following. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Okimoto. Hi, Director-Designate Martin. Thank you very much for last month as well. And I have to say, you look very snazzy. I love what you're wearing. I was also going to say that to Director Millis, but I know he left the chambers. But I do have to say that I was going to commend you on increasing the communications with the council. I have seen a good amount of different DTS directors. So I have been able to see that change with the department. And I do actually see that council ads would then get incorporated to certain DTS budget proposals. Of course, we would love more because, a lot of us are, along with sending it risers and concerns into the departments, a lot of the questions that comes to our office, including in addition to parks, is especially how we're getting around. So we really appreciate, I'm sure I can speak for my team. We appreciate the increase in communications and efforts. My question is for, there's different agencies that you have to get approvals for. There's different processes where DTS makes a decision as well. And I was wondering, for, street use or sidewalk permits or whichever, are there going to be any processes changes that you and your fellow city administrators are looking at making changes to so that the decision making doesn't have to go back and forth between DTS and DFM or DPP or whomever those responsibilities lay with?
Well, we are looking with the change in the mall assignment. We are looking to do some rulemaking for permitting of activities on the mall. Hopefully, we'll get that done in a reasonable time. We'll have to go through the state, have a public hearing, and do those. And we're always looking for ways that we can improve the process. What I found is that the relationship building with the other agencies is indispensable, that, you have to communicate not only with the council, but with the different agencies that we deal with, whether it be DPP or BFS or DDC or DFM, because we do coordinate with multiple departments on an ongoing basis. Luckily, I think at the staff levels, all of our departments have good relationships at the staff level, and just trying to improve that communication, trying to prioritize what we're trying to do, so that we can get things approved and done in a reasonable amount of time.
Thank you very much, Director, and thank you, Vice Chair, and I'm fully in support. Mahalo.
Thank you, Committee Chair Cordero. I'd like to welcome to the chamber joining us Councilmember Wire and Councilmember Tupola.
Aloha, Director. I very much appreciated the meeting that I had with your team the other day. It was thorough. There are many things that I had addressed in previous years that you guys actually implemented. I would say, echoing the prior comments I had about council ads, that actually the ones that I added in for my district that were DTS related either got done or are getting done, which for me is amazing. It's so great to tell my community, like, hey, you advocated for this thing and look, they did it. And so of course I make videos about all of it so that everyone knows. But I just, need to give credit where credit is due. You're doing a very thorough job. You have good long-term strategic planning. You have active pursuits of federal funding for many of the things that we need. You're gathering input through your Plan Zero and getting it very detailed. So I just, I need to say thank you, because I've worked with many of the interior people that work with GTS, almost all of your people. They're stellar, which means that they probably have a stellar leader. So I just wanted to tell you thank you. I support your reconfirmation, and I look forward to working with you these upcoming years. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Tupola. Any further questions, members? Oh, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you. This is less of a question than a compliment. As somebody who uses all forms of transportation in the city, I mean, bus, walking, driving, biking, I really appreciate Director Morton's big picture thinking on all of these issues and seeing how they all fit together. It's been really a pleasure to work with him, as well as Deputy Director Nochi, on a number of these issues, and I look forward to the opening of Phase 2 of Rail later this year, because again, I think that's going to trigger some pretty big changes in terms of transportation, and I'm glad that Director Morton's going to be at the helm.
Thank you, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you very much.
I had a couple of questions, Director Designate, if that's okay. And I do want to echo what my colleagues have said. I really am thankful for when your team comes and meets with us. It's really, I like to see how you incorporate everybody in your office and how they respond to our needs. I think I might not be speaking alone when I say that much of the concerns that come to our offices from our districts are related to streets. Along with parks and trees, we have streets and road conditions. And I am thankful for the work that your team does. I did want to ask if you could maybe help me understand, or maybe help me in responding back to my community, because I know when I started in this position 2 years ago, the wait time to have a study done was a certain amount of time, and now it's much longer. I think it went from 3 to 6 months to now 9 to 12 months. And I have explained to the community that when more requests come in, it does, then become more of a response on your end where it may take time. But what could you, maybe you could help me address that issue when it comes to response times when people are waiting. There's a street in part of my district that's in Pearl City that is very plagued on every intersection. And we get emails and calls constantly about the dangers of that. So I was wondering if you could tell me what could be done to address the time of these studies and how we can address addressing the needs of the community.
Well, very much it depends upon the type of request we look at. Some requests require more data and review than others. And for those that do require, we need to schedule our survey crew to go out, do counts, and do studies like that. And those do take a long time because we have a small staff of technicians that go out and do that type of work. And we have many requests for that. So they do tend to back up a little bit. I mean, we did, pass on the lowering of speed limits, for example. We did also incorporate in that where a technical study was not required by ordinance anymore, and neither is it required by state law anymore as far as lowering speed. So there may be opportunities for other types of transportation, reviews that maybe we can look at reducing the scope for those that are appropriate to do. I don't want to second guess our engineering staff. At the end of the day, I expect them to use their engineering judgment when they do it. And if if that includes, doing a review, a comprehensive review, then that's going to be the standard that we'll follow. But I will huddle with my staff, and if you have any projects that are particular priorities, I'm happy to listen to them and see if we can reprioritize the number of studies we're doing to accommodate those that are of very high priority.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know my office has been in contact with your staff. And so what you shared is always really helpful. I think what we're hoping to do, and if you're open to it, is to have some of your staff, or if it's you, but I think you have really great engineers and people running complete streets and addressing other issues, have them come to our neighborhood board meeting or something, come to the community, because many times what you guys can communicate to the community is understood or received. You convey the message in a better way than we're able to. So I think that's something I'm going to ask, if that's something that you're open to have more discussion in our communities, especially the parts that have high concerns of the roads.
We are, and we do go to many, community events. I think committee chair just has organized one in her district that we'll be attending. I would ask for a little, we certainly can go when there's new things, and we can go from time to time. But again, our staff is small, and many times they'll do 2 nights a week, just going out to do meetings. There are 9 council members and 30 neighborhood boards and 25 senators and 51 representatives and a lot of ad hoc groups as well. So just, we definitely want to get out into the community, but I also want to make sure that I don't burn out my staff in overly expecting them to be out more than what would be a reasonable amount.
Completely understood, and I agree as well. I'm not a believer of just being in meetings unnecessarily, but I will say that the ones that we do feel important, those are the ones that I'll put a plug in from my office. And I'm going to advocate for your staff to be at city functions and working with the city council before working with the state legislature. They can, hopefully that will take precedence over that, since we're a city department.
And we like the approach of within an area of all of the legislators, whether they be city or state, when you organize one, if you can invite the state representatives too, it's better for us if we have everybody in one common meeting, because usually the issues are the same issues for other legislators too in the region.
Duly noted. Thank you. I had one more question, and it's based on rail, and I do appreciate the efforts that have been placed there, but recently there have been in the headlines, and this has been a concern of mine, is the ridership and the amounts of city money that is still used to subsidize. I'm wondering, when will this turn upward, or not always be a project where we are just expending a lot of money to maintain it? I understand that right now it's still in phase 1, and we all look forward to expanding, as Councilmember Dos Santos Tam said, where the ridership options will be greater. But the audit is alarming to see that we're not in a good position. What are the department's plans based on what we're seeing to address these concerns?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. We disagree with the audit's findings. For example, if the auditor did not include the first 4 days of free operation, and during the first 5 days, one was in June, we carried more than 75,000 riders. Now, to include those 4 days when we carried 62,000, and then said that our ridership was declining, well, that's factually right. But if I exclude the 4 days of the initial operation and look at year on year for July when we started to July, the next July, we were up 2.2% in ridership. In the last 3 months, year on year, our ridership has just on over 1 year for the last 3 months, our ridership increased 21.2%, 15.8%, 14.6%. And from the first month of operation, which was July of 2023, and excluding the first 4 free days, our weekday ridership increased by 31.5% from July. So I take a little bit of to see a headline that say that the ridership was down by 77%, I think is disingenuous. And I did notice that yesterday it was corrected, even the math was wrong. And a revised audit was put out that said it was down 44% because of a math error that was done. Other comments, such as we should have gone to the airport, or that we should have extended the hours longer. My experience in transit is that if we did extend the hours longer, let's say to 11 o'clock, that's four extra hours. In the absence of serving entertainment districts, places where there's lots of shift employment and other things like that, then I would expect the ridership would go up by maybe 300 a day. But I know the expenses would go up by $12 million a year. So I think in looking at the at those kind of recommendations, I think they're opinions, but I don't know whether they're really borne out in technical analysis of what the impact would actually be.
I appreciate you clarifying, and thank you for, again, your passion and the efforts that you're doing to address and your expertise. I guess for me, I'm just looking at it fiscally on the taxpayer dollars right now. When is it going to be where we're not subsidizing at the extent that we are? If right now it's not going to be fruitful to extend to 11, what are we looking at so that the dollars that we're spending do not exceed the dollars that we're bringing in?
Well, we'll never get to the point when the dollars that we bring in will cover that. What I think would be a worthy goal would be to look to get perhaps 25 to 30% of the expenses covered. And I'm of the mind that as we extend our system, our ridership will grow. It will grow on the second segment, but our real growth will be when we get our system to Civic Center and hopefully on to Ala Moana. When and at that point, with our ridership forecast, I think that we would be looking at a return of maybe 25 to 30%, which is a little bit higher than the bus. But it is that same pattern throughout the country.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your question, your responses to my questions. Members, if we have any further questions, Councilmember Wire.
Mahalo, Chair. Actually, this is an interesting conversation. So I'm just curious because obviously I share the concerns about making sure our funding is used efficiently, and so I'm just curious. Could you walk us through? It sounds like you're saying that generally public transportation is subsidized if the bus and the handy van. Could you maybe just explain a little bit more about that so I can have a better understanding?
Sure. In this country and in most of Europe, transit is subsidized. Historically, Honolulu has been on the higher side of cost recovery for cities of our size. If I looked at cities like New York City, which is probably about 1/3 to a half of all transit in the country, their rate of return is about 50%. If you look at BART was historically pre-COVID was about 50%. So we'll be lower than that because we don't have a New York and we don't have a San Francisco, but we do have a very transit-oriented community. And I think that, my goal will be to be in the 25 to 30% range when we get to the system extended.
I appreciate that. Is there a bigger reason for that? And I only ask because when we met with the Bangkok Metropolitan Council, they were talking about pretty much that, like how much they're able to cover the transportation and it affects fares. But then I know when we do the rate commission, of course, folks are chiming in on the bus rates increasing. But it seems like other countries do that. So I'm just curious if there's more reasoning. Yeah.
Sure. I just returned from a trip to Singapore, and Singapore has as a policy for transit that it would break even. and they do that. Singapore is about 1/3 the size of Oahu. It has 6.4 million people. It has 985,000 cars, which is less than we have on Oahu. And the registration for a new car is $100,000, which lasts for 10 years. So, and they have an excellent transit system, but they have both a combination of exceptionally high automobile rates and combined with a great transit system, both rail and bus. So I don't think it's reasonable for us to look at that. Tokyo's another example. Tokyo is 30 million people with limited automobiles in the country, more and more all the time, but still compared to us, just a fraction of the automobile ownership. And historically excellent transit system that's been there. And they also largely break even on their transit too, at least from the O&M point of view. Bangkok, I'm sure, is the same issue, that the personal income in Bangkok is much lower than in the U.S. And so it's frankly, automobiles are out of reach of much of the population. So all of those things do it. I think that we have an opportunity to be a model in the U.S. environment for transit, but I don't think that we're gonna see us in a Singapore type, Bangkok type situation.
Right, Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Wire. Councilmember Tupola?
Yeah, thank you. I didn't know about the audit. I was just reading through it, and I think you're right. I mean, obviously, it's like apples and oranges when we're talking about humongous cities that have a population to sustain or need that type of transit line, which at the onset of the rail, everyone knew that we weren't going to have that population. They were hoping that with new housing, there would come that. But I think our best bet, and I know you guys just kind of recently inherited the rail from HART, our best bet is to try to make our own marketing plan for it. I've heard you guys come up with, individual ideas of like, okay, custom holo cards for this, okay, a special line from Kamakanali'i to the start, but, Dita, I know she's not in your department. She's a marketing genius. So I feel like there actually has to be a real big push for us to actually do a marketing plan. I was cracking up that the news article actually compared you guys' social media with other people's, like as if that, I mean, I get it that they have bigger accounts, but they probably have bigger populations. But nonetheless, the point is fair. The point is, what is our marketing plan? And I know you guys aren't a marketing agency, but I think that's kind of what we have to go towards, is what is the marketing plan? What is the business plan? And it's something that probably would have to be laid out over many years. And then we would have to compare ourselves to ourselves from the previous year, from the 2 previous years, and that would be the only way we could really gauge improvement and not continue to have these comparisons to places where we really just aren't even the same. So I commend you. I know you guys have to do a lot of defending, but I think that was, expected. So I think we have to move forward with a more proactive plan.
Yeah, and I enjoy working with Dita and look forward to involving her as a critique of our marketing plan as we get to phase 2 opening. Yesterday, my day was made by a letter I got from Senator Gabbard, who I'm just going to read one paragraph. And the backstory is he decided that he had never taken the rail, and he decided he was going to try it out. And the one paragraph I'll read was, "Wow, it took me one round trip to realize that this was the only way to go. Literally the best use of my time. Instead of hassling with traffic coming from Kapolei, I could relax, look at the beautiful scenery, and also do correspondence and prep work for my upcoming hearings." What a deal. We need to get that type of enthusiasm out as part of our marketing plan, that I think there's so many opportunities of people like Mike that had not had the opportunity to actually try it. And I've got to figure out a way with our marketing people to really get that word out and make that the focus of how we're going to try to get more people to ride. And we'll have more opportunity when we get to airport.
Thank you, Councilmember Tupola. Committee Chair Cordero?
Thank you, Vice Chair Okimoto. I do want to bring up that our Council Vice Chair Wire did bring up a great point about Bangkok, and I'm not trying to compare our city with their city, but I think the question I have is it too late for us to continue to look for public-private partnerships, which is what the reason why Bangkok has what they have right now, right? Was through major corporations funding it. And so I was wondering, is that too late for our rail system, or is that still something that's a possibility?
Our rail system is not as massive as Bangkok's, and it's not as massive, obviously, as New York or Tokyo or those places. It's appropriate for our size. It's 4-car trains, not 12-car trains. It is appropriate for our size, and I hope that as we get to the 2030, 2031 timeframe, and we get all the way into town, I mean, our projections are that we'll see 85,000 riders, and that will, the more riders we have, the easier it is to pay for the operations, because I expect that the riders will continue to provide, a portion of the operating costs. So that's what I think we have to look forward to, is that we have a service now that doesn't really go to employment areas, or not in a way that are concentrated like a downtown is, or where there's lots of employment as there is at Pearl Harbor or at airport. And we're going to see some big changes when we open up our second segment, but we're going to see some phenomenal changes as we get into the downtown civic center, government center, business center areas of Oahu.
Also, I know that they had a China company from China, a company from Vietnam, and I know that there was another company that they had, but I was wondering if, like, let's say it's another segment that isn't planned. Are we able to do it then, or does a PPP have to apply for the whole system? No, Council Vice Chair's question just made me spur those questions up.
This is getting a little beyond my confirmation speech, but you can have a P3 for just one line. Other cities have done it. We probably, the decision has to be made is whether a second line needs to be totally separate from the line you have. If it is totally separate, then there are opportunities from the very beginning to do a P3. If it's an extension, I think it's probably less likely that a P3 model makes any sense. Because you're using the same technology, probably the same management, probably the same operators, and that's just the way it is. But those are questions that are pretty broad, really, that I don't know if I'm in a good position to answer those questions to you in a comprehensive way.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Yes, actually, yeah, you're right. It is four different lines. Sorry, I know that I didn't have or present that very well, but yeah, thank you. You're right. It is 4 different lines. Thanks.
Thank you, Committee Chair Cordero. Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll be quick. I know we're going on. No, but with those questions, and I was just curious, because I've heard some people say that getting it up to like Central Oahu wouldn't be possible because the incline. Do you have any insight on that, or are there other types of technology that could be contemplated?
The incline would not be a barrier.
Okay, good. Thank you. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Wire. Any further questions? I want to thank you again, and I appreciate your answering the tougher questions. And I will say that I understand, as you stated, that with any public transportation, my question earlier was not, I understand that we're not going to ever make more than what we expend. However, I think from the taxpayer perspective, our concerns are, unless we can get this thing operating to places where they're actually meaningful to the riders and where the operation costs will not overburden our taxpayers to no extent, that's what my concerns are. So moving forward, I would like to see that whatever's happening, we talk about the second phase, we look forward to it, but the rail doesn't go to every part of the island. So hopefully whatever we're doing and whatever we're planning, it keeps in mind that ridership may not be impacted positively until we get to the places that the riders need to get to. But I just want to just kind of put, a word in for our taxpayers, because this is a big project and it's taking a lot. It's gone far longer and far more than anybody anticipated. So I hope that we can see some positive light at the end. And that's just to add on to the questions I asked earlier. So thank you. Okay, members, seeing no further questions, we'll now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Seeing no testifiers, members, we are in discussion. Seeing no further discussion, the chair then recommends that Resolution 25-20 be reported out for adoption. Any further discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you, Director-Designate Morton. And I believe Councilmember Dos Santos Tam is going to be leaving Zoom at this time and be joining us soon in the chamber. Is that correct?
I'll see you guys upstairs.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Moving on to agenda item number 3, Resolution 25-14. This resolution confirms the nomination of Jean C. Albano, PE, to serve as the Chief Engineer of the Department of Facility Maintenance of the City and County of Honolulu. And with us in the chamber today, we do have Jean C. Albano, PE, Chief Engineer for DFM. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning,
Albano.
Committee Vice Chair Okimoto, members of the committee. Jean Albano, Director and Chief Engineer Designate of the Department of Facility Maintenance. I am hopeful to continue as the director and want to simply thank the council for all their support for the department. And it is with my hope that I get a favorable response to be able to continue. Thank you very much, and I'm open to any comments that you may have.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions for Chief Engineer Designate Albano? I see Committee Chair Cordero, and then followed by Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Okimoto. I have to say, I'm so lucky because our committee has the best dressed directors for the confirmations. I'm just going to say that. You look very slick, Director Albano. I do have to ask, not ask, but comment to express my gratitude for the continued communications after last month's hearing. We really appreciate that. I do want to ask about we did talk about council ads with the first 2 directors, so I do want to add this as well, because a lot of it is equipment for you guys and also signage, and I don't know if it's process or whatnot, but I was wondering how we could support you all, because if we compare the amount of requests we have for like signs and how much staff that is you have capacity for, and I guess pushing out of signs, we want to be able to help support that and match that. So I just wanted to ask how we can, work together further, or actually just make it happen, because this committee's department, everyone just sees you guys. Everything's just so tangible, from our roads to our streets, our sidewalks, like the signs, to what's in the parks, and also like all the poles, everything. So I just wanted to ask if there's something if there's a better way to advocate for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. With respect to requests to replace signs or improve sidewalks, it's at this point a resource concern, and we are addressing our resources, and it is through our leadership that we have been able to hire, and we are improving on our response in terms of replacing signage and requests for any type of infrastructure that is important to immediately address because of public safety or health concerns. And therefore, it is a work in progress, but I feel confident that the department will continue to improve on responsiveness, and we can continue the approach in terms of dialogue through email, meeting in person, whatever it takes for our department to improve our response time for those requests.
Mahalo, Director, and mahalo, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Committee Chair Cordero. Councilmember Tupola. Oh, before I hand it over to Councilmember Tupola, I'd just like to welcome and recognize Councilmember Dos Santos Tam joining us in the chamber. Thank you.
Aloha, Director. Yes, you're going to get a favorable recommendation. You're doing a great job. You still have a smile on your face. I asked you for information about the SPO and you emailed it over. I'm looking at your matrix right now. I'm going to maybe add some amendments to it. I think my main thing, and that's not for this confirmation, but as you move forward and you discuss with us your budget, my main thing is that I know for a fact that SPOs are not built into anyone's budget. Everyone's just kind of using whatever funds they have here and there. That's my main concern. Whether it's in your budget or in DPR's budget or DFM's budget, we're kind of just like duct taping everything together. So I'm going to write out and kind of add to the matrix, and maybe hopefully when you come in front of us, we can talk about it more. Because you guys are holding the brunt of it, that's my concern. You guys are holding the brunt of the responsibility, you're funding the brunt of the responsibility, but there is no line item we can find, which makes it concerning to me, because then again, you guys are kind of pulling resources that you may or may not have. And I've had this conversation with other departments too, where everyone's kind of like using their salary savings, they're using this pocket here, that to try to make things happen. But for something that we actually run regularly, that includes and is important for the restoration of public spaces to the public, I would assume it would be safe for us to actually put it into a line item and determine what agency in the city will really be over it. You can share any thoughts you have.
Thank you, Councilmember Tupola. And we do appreciate the identification of dedicated budget for SPO. We recognize, however, that the city is responsible for balancing the budget, and it is a collaborative and team effort amongst all the departments to determine what's best in terms of being able to have equitable budget for each of the departments. And we appreciate the council's concern. However, we will work closely with the administration in how we can perhaps identify budget specifically for SPO.
Okay,
tasks.
yeah, I'll write it in because I agree with you. Probably every department involved has to have a small budget, probably, because everyone is kind of just using salary savings or whatever extra money they have or hours or overtime they can give, which I think does kind of stress a department and probably should have us look to see if there is actually extra staffing we need to really make this happen, because it's a frequent conversation in the SPO meetings. Hey, we don't have time for this. We got a million other things to do. So, and I want to respect that. DFM does lots and lots of good work that we really, really need. So thank you very much, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tupola. Any further questions from the members? I had a couple if not. And thank you again for being here. We really do appreciate, I think we don't disguise that we are a big fan of you and all that you're doing, and we're thankful that you continue to be positive. You still have the smile that you had when you got here. I just had a couple of questions, and this kind of relates to parts of my district, but also I think island-wide when it comes to the maintenance of where we have storm drains and areas where there might be flooding. I was first wondering, what are the department's tasks right now? How do you address that in the event when there is a pending storm coming? And second, does the department have scheduled maintenance like how Parks does, or do you just react to situations?
Two parts. With regards to regular maintenance, we do have a schedule with regards to maintenance of storm drainage, storm infrastructure. That is on a regular basis. Now, with regards to pending storms, the department will go through its protocol in addressing potential flooding spots and going there to make sure that those have been cleared prior to a storm. So we will do every effort to make sure that prior to any pending storm that we have addressed traditional low spots, traditional flooding areas, so that we mitigate any of those potential disasters.
And how has that been going for the city at this time?
In general, I think the last storm, I believe we did our best with respect to addressing floods. Obviously, there were floods specifically in the Hawaii Kai area where they traditionally don't get flooding. And it's simply just the infrastructure that's already in place. It's antiquated, and in due time, it is our hope that we are able to improve the infrastructure there to mitigate future flooding.
Great, thank you. And thank you for the work that you guys are doing in that area. I was just curious if you could share what projects or what needs do you think the department spends most of its time on? If you could even quantify that. Whether it's from our constituent concerns or just you going out with your maintenance, checking the different parts of the island, where do you feel like the department is spending the majority of your manpower and your time maintaining or repairing?
That's a tough question to ask. I think the staff have daily maintenance tasks, and they will do that on the schedule that is being. That's the schedule that was the schedule, and when there are priorities that come up, we will then address those priorities and then try to get back to the daily routine. And it's a push and pull process. It is our hope, however, that we continue to staff up and catch up. While we may not always catch up just because of that's the nature of maintenance, we are continuing to figure out improving process, using technology to better how we handle maintenance in general.
Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to spring that on you. I was just curious. I didn't mean to
No worries. Yeah, no worries. I'm certainly just very proud of the men and women who do their best to make sure that the city facilities are in as best shape as possible for the benefit of all constituents.
Thank you, and we are grateful. Last question, it deals with staffing. What is your staffing situation at this time? How are you? You mentioned that you still have some areas of need.
Continuing to chip away at our vacancy rate. I'm proud to say that we're below 30%. It is our aspiration that we may try to get to close to 20% by the end of this year, calendar 25.
Great to hear. Thank you. Members, any further questions? Okay, Sina. Thank you, Chief Engineer Designate Albano. We'll now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. We will now proceed with in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Seeing no testifiers, members, we are in discussion. Seeing no further discussion, the chair then recommends that Resolution 25-14 be reported out for adoption. Any further discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Okay, members, we are now moving to agenda item number 4, Resolution 25-67. This resolution accepts a gift of $4,000 to the city from the Freshwater Initiative Hawaii Community Foundation to be used for travel and related expenses for a staff member of the Department of Facility Maintenance to attend the 2025 Annual Grants Management Training in Washington, D.C. on March 10 through the 15th, 2025. Members, we have posted to the agenda a proposed CD1 version of the resolution, OCS 2025-0166/2/27/2025, 9:11 a.m., submitted by Committee Chair Cordero. For your information, a summary of the amendments is listed on the agenda. And with us today, again, we have Jean C. Albano, PE, our Chief Engineer Designate for DFM.
Vice Chair Aquino, members of the committee, Gina Albano, Director and Chief Engineer Designate. It is through our nonprofit organizations that we are very appreciative of the opportunity to have staff learn the federal grant process. We are trying our best to continue to obtain funding. Federal grants is certainly one opportunity. However, stormwater quality at this point does not have dedicated staff that understand the federal grant process. So we are grateful for our nonprofit partners to be able to sponsor and an employee to learn the federal grant process such that we can ultimately do it on our own. Currently, they are doing it on our behalf, and it is with our hope that we will be able to do it internally. With regards to federal grants that the department currently have, we do have one in the amount of $679,000 in fiscal year 23. It was our first grant that we received, and it was for green infrastructure and Kaka'ako. We are hopeful to also get a $600,000 grant in fiscal year 25 for green infrastructure planning in the Windward District. So we are hopeful that this can get through for the investment of our employees. We understand that through investment of our staff, they will return in greater capacity to better our department. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Engineer Designate. Members, do we have any questions? I just was curious, how do you decide who's attending this conference? Who's going to attend as a member of DFM?
We are sending our administrative specialist, Cher. She has the responsibility of being able to plan their budget accordingly, and obviously through the budgeting with federal grants, we want to be able to have her understand the entire process to be able to plan and manage their budget.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further questions, we'll now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. We will now proceed with in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, we are in discussion. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-67 be amended to the posted CD1 OCS 2025-0166/2/27/2025 9:11 a.m. Any further discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, the resolution has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 25-67 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item number 5, Bill 61, 2024, CD1. This bill relates to wheelies. And I'm not sure if Council Vice Chair Wire wanted to discuss anything or expound on it. No? Okay. We'll now welcome J. Roger Morton, our Director Designate of DTS. He's with us, joining us in the chamber. Aloha, good morning.
Good morning. For the record, Roger Morton, Director Designate for the Department of Transportation Services. Department is in accord with the bill, and we support the bill.
Thank you, members. Any questions for Director Designate Morton? No? Okay. Seeing no questions, thank you. We will now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. We will now proceed with in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Members, we are in discussion. Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mahalo DTS, HPD, Corporation Council for their input in clarifying and adjusting the bill. And then, of course, the input from our committee members. Just to reiterate, I think the goal of the ordinance, after getting feedback from the community and the request coming from folks, particularly those with HPD relationships, I think was just to provide a tool in the toolkit and a ordinance with a very simple, clear standard that's easy to quickly cite when appropriate and have those intervening conversations in the community, and then also just easy to work through in court, given the evidentiary burden. So just wanted to say mahalo again, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Wire. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Bill. I'm sorry, Committee Chair Cordero. Sorry about that.
No, good. No worries. Thank you. I just really want to expound on the comments of our Council Vice Chair Wire. In addition to that, hearing from HPD and hearing that there's so many different types of two-wheeled vehicles that are not by bikes or e-bikes. So we hope that we can, like Council Vice Chair Wire said, add more tools, but also add further allowances to enforce those other types of two-wheeled vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you, Committee Chair Cordero. Okay, seeing no further discussion, the chair then recommends that Bill 61, 2024, CD1 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any further discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving to agenda item number 6, Bill 6, 2025, CD1. This bill relates to structures. And with us today, we have Director of BFS, Director Andy Kawano. I saw him with us. Oh. Or is there a representative from BFS with us? Oh, sorry. Thank you, Director Kawano. I saw you waiting patiently. Thank you for being here with us today.
Sorry about that. Good morning, Vice Chair of the Committee on Infrastructure and Transportation, Honorable Council Members, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. Thank you for allowing us to testify. We are in concurrence with a number of bills by Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, Budget Chair, to repeal outdated bills and to modernize other bills, such as number 6. What we'd like to share is we would, because BFS is going to be involved in administering the measure, we'd like to work on continuing to modify the types of assets or structures that would have to be permitted with BFS acting as administrator. Currently, there's still, as I see, freight elevators, chute elevators, and I've been doing more research, and it appears as though the state is, has oversight currently, and I'd like to really think through what types of structures make sense going forward before the bill is passed. Other than that, it does make sense, and I'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kawano. Members, do we have any questions for Director Kawano? No? Okay. Thank you, Director Kawano. We'll now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now proceed with in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Seeing no testifiers, members, we are in discussion. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you to Committee Chair Cordero for putting this on the agenda. After discussing with BFS, I agree that there's probably a need to think through, more of the structure, more of the structures that either do need to be regulated, or if the state's taken over regulation of them, identifying those. Again, the purpose of this bill was really to help clean things up. It started off with the public telephone enclosures, which we don't have public telephone enclosures really anymore, and the ones we do have probably ought to be removed. But there may be other types of structures in the future that we should be ready for, and that's also something I'd like to work on. Things like Amazon lockers, electric vehicle chargers that may be on the sidewalk next to a parking stall, for example. And so I want to make sure that we have a structure under which the city can regulate those. And so it may take a little bit more time. So with your indulgence, perhaps we can defer this measure till a future committee meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Any further discussion, members? Appreciate the input, and we really appreciate the input of Director Kawano and our BFS department. Okay. So noting the discussion and the recommendation from the introducer of the bill, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, the chair recommends that action on Bill 6, 2025, CD1 be postponed to a date and time to be determined by the committee chair. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Okay, members, we are now moving to agenda item number 7, Bill 1, 2025, CD1. This bill relates to public places. And members, I will now defer to Committee Chair Cordero for further explanation.
Hi, Vice Chair Okimoto. Thank you very much. So for Bill 7, I do have a recommendation from Corporation Council where for an amendment to address concerns related to the state law and city ordinances, and it relates to concessions. So therefore, I would like to propose a verbal amendment to specify that permits for outdoor dining services be valid for a maximum of 1 year period as opposed to a minimum 1 year period. This changes on page 2, subsection D at the 5th line, and will change the word minimum to maximum. And yes, that would be that suggested amendment.
Thank you, Committee Chair Cordero, for clarifying that. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Thank you. I want to echo what Committee Chair Cordero mentioned. We heard from many of the restaurants that have been participating in the pilot sidewalk dining program that they'd like to see the length of the permit be longer than a year, so it aligns with either their liquor permit or aligns with their insurance requirements or other things, just to reduce their burden. But to further elucidate what you mentioned, it was discovered that under state law, anything over a year is defined as a concession if it's using city property, in this case a sidewalk or perhaps a park or a pedestrian mall. And so we really can't go beyond a year, but I hope we can find ways to work with the administration as they implement this to make it as easy as possible for people who own restaurants and operate them to renew very easily if there haven't been changes, if they simply want to just roll it over into the next year.
Thank you, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Members with us, I have on my agenda Deputy Director of DTS John Nouchi, but are you here first, Director Designate Martin, instead of Deputy Director Nouchi?
For the record, Roger Morton, Director Designate of the Department of Transportation Services. Yeah, my deputy has been spearheading this. We support the effort. We're fine with the amendment as recommended by CORE. And we want to do what we can to encourage outdoor dining in appropriate places.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions for Director Designate Martin? Seeing none, thank you, Director Designate. We will now proceed. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Cordero, if I could have Director Martin back up here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Okimoto. Hi, Director Designate Morton. Thank you very much for being here. I know that sidewalks fall under DTS for street use permits, and I know that similarly to what we mentioned last month, to the duration of time where businesses operating, and we don't want them to fall into out of the state law into concessions, but would you be willing to work with the council to figure out different language to see if we could consolidate, first off, consolidate permitting for non-street use for businesses purposes, whether it be going to either BFS or DPP, and then also looking at language for exceptions to concessions on city property as well?
The short answer is yes. We'd be happy to work with the council on that. Under this program, we are stepping up to do the permitting. We don't have infrastructure to do enforcement. And by agreement, I think DPP will continue to do enforcement of that, and also to make sure that the restaurants adhere to the requirements of the ordinance.
Director, do you think that we can, and I don't know if there's exceptions to which part of the ordinance, that we could just slide this under DPP instead of DTS?
I'm not sure either. I think that we can probably handle that interdepartmentally. I think the regulatory part of, or at least the ministerial part of issuing the permit is what DTS has said that we will do. And part of that is because there is a close relationship between street usage permits and outdoor dining, and also the new mall regulation bill too. All of those are related to each other, and it just makes sense that there be one central place where the permitting be done for those. And we're going to try to make it, to the extent we can. In this, we have to, there's the applicants have to comply with other laws, liquor licenses if they have them, those kinds of things. So, but from the parts that we can regulate, we want to make it as easy as possible because we support the concept of outdoor dining just from an economic development perspective too.
Thank you for that. Adversely then, would we be able to, I guess, have the same software shared between the departments, because then it goes back and forth from administering the permit, then enforcement, right? And so I just wanted to see if we could keep it between like under 3 departments at the least, or just at 2.
Yeah, that would be, a future project for us to have software that would be like that. I mean, ours is a paper process right now, but having said that, we've figured out over the years, who has to coordinate on permitting which departments, and I think it works.
Okay, thank you, Director.
Thank you, Committee Chair Cordero, Council Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I know there are some questions at the last committee, so I was just curious. So did the departments figure out who would be responsible for the reporting?
I'm going to have to defer to my deputy, who's not here, but I have not been tracking that part of the bill.
Okay, mahalo.
Thank you, Council Vice Chair Wire. Members, any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Director Designate Martin. We'll now proceed with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Seeing no further testifiers, members, we are in discussion. Okay, seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 1, 2025, CD1 be amended to a CD2 that amends proposed new ROH section 13-20.3D and Section 2 of the bill to specify that permits for outdoor dining services be valid for a maximum 1-year period as opposed to a minimum 1-year period as discussed. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, the bill has been amended to a CD2. The chair then recommends that Bill 1, 2025, CD2 be reported out for passage on 3rd reading. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you, members. There being no further business at this time, this meeting is adjourned.